Hey guys, welcome back. It is me, Bushcraft family, with another video. And this one's kind of different. Well, I usually say that, but anyways, uh, I was watching a movie last night and I thought, this would be a good subject for a video. As you can know by the title, Hollywood. Sometimes Hollywood does get things right. Sometimes some of the things that they do is actually a thing, you know. Um, for instance, we'll start with the first one here, so kind of get an idea of what we're going with. Um, Cauterizing a wound can still seal a bleeder in no time. You know, Rambo, for instance, uh, pouring gun powder in his wound and then setting it ablaze. Um, it sealed it. It may not be the prettiest thing or whatnot, but in a pinch, something like that could save your life. Or Braveheart. One of the best things is when uh, he goes to get revenge on the guy that killed his wife, so to speak, and one of the old guys is lifting the door for others to get in, and he is uh, ran through with a device, a spear, and afterwards they use a hot poker to seal his wound after they cleaned it out and whatnot, somewhat cleaned it out, but you kind of get the gist of it. Something like that. And again, I'm not a medical person. I'm just saying what I've learned from other professionals about said stuff. And then once we'll go through some of these, then we'll come back and I'll let you know about what I think about Hollywood survivability in the real world and whatnot. But our next one is tourniquets. A tourniquet can save your life in an instant. You know, you hit an artery or something, you don't have very long. And if you don't know how to use one of these, this is a tourniquet. You don't know how to use one of those, I suggest you learn real quick. I didn't have one when I cut my leg, but I knew from experience that I had cut an artery and I had to hurry up and make a tourniquet. I ripped my shirt off, made a tourniquet, and probably saved my life. You know, um, I lost so much blood in those 48 hours, um, but tourniquet probably saved my life until help got there. Um, in the movie, I think it's 127 hours. The guy was going through canals or not a canal, but caverns and stuff, and he slipped and fell, and a rock pinned his arm to where he couldn't get out, and he ended up cutting his hand off, and he made a tourniquet, and that tourniquet saved his life. Um, there are many, many other uh, movies where a tourniquet saves somebody's life in a movie. A lot of them, the belt thing. is okay, but for like a tourniquet, they have this little rod here for a reason. Once you secure it with something, you twist that rod, and it seals that. It seals that limb or whatever. So if you just see somebody use a belt, um, it would work a little bit, but it wouldn't work 100% because eventually it's going to build up pressure and it's going to gush out. Um, Another one, uh, and I love this one because I'm a big Star Wars fan. But on the Empire Strikes Back, uh, Luke gets caught out in a blizzard, horrible blizzard on the planet of Hoth, and Han Solo goes out looking for him. He finds him very hypothermic, the whole shebang. He's barely hanging on. So um, Han Solo takes his life, Luke's lifesaver, and cuts a slit inside a tauntaun, which is like an oversized horse with two legs. But anyways, it falls down. He opens it up and puts Luke in there to keep him warm until he can build a shelter and whatnot. And that saved his life. You know, I'm not saying that if you're freezing, find a cow and jump in or anything, but it could work. You know, uh, a cow could stay warm for a good while, could save somebody's life. Um, I'll move on from that one. It's got a gross one, but yeah. And this one, which this one is one I watched on a movie, and it irritates the heck out of me every time I see it, and every time you see these movies, they do the same thing. Somebody's lost, somebody's shipwrecked, somebody's plane goes down, or whatever the case may be. These morons are on the ground screaming, "Hello, down here! It's me! Save me!" Um, 99% of the time, more than that, 100% of the time, they're not going to hear you. They are in an airplane way far up in the sky, a very loud airplane or helicopter with a motor right next to where they are. So they are not going to hear you. Um, so I have seen movies that had very intelligent people in them that used a mirror, used a flashlight, used logs or debris and made an SOS or something like that to where it's very noticeable because all they have is their sight and they're looking ahead and stuff. And if you're under the helicopters, very seldom they're going to see you. Very seldom. So know that if you're lost out somewhere and you see an airplane, they're not going to see you. Even some of these airplanes that I've seen people screaming and hollering at were commercial jets, the smaller ones, but still, no, but they ain't looking down. They're they're people in there having their drinks and watching TV, or the pilots are looking at their instruments or looking through straight ahead. That's almost as bad as the gun that never runs out of ammo. And believe it or not, our next one is you can spin uh, a stick on a board and create fire. Um, a bow drill, as long as you know the basics of it, um, it's not too hard. Your um, rod, I forget the name of it. This is horrible. Um, has to be hardwood. Your board has to be softwood. Simple. Then you spin it as fast as you can, and you keep spinning it until you get enough embers to create a fire. And that's not the one of the hardest parts. The hardest part is finding the kindling and dry goods you need to start the fire. But again, like on Castaways, um, he made a fire with friction, a bow drill, um, or a hand drill, like this, either or. It's just if you have cordage, it goes so much faster when you use a bow. Um, and that's one of the things they got right in a movie in the movie. You know, probably not as easy because they cut parts of it out, but sometimes you can you can be doing this for an hour to days to 15 minutes. Um, depends on the conditions. Our next one here is Mad Max. Gasoline was almost as valuable as water. And anytime you seen a vehicle on the side of the road or anything, you would check and see if they had gas. If they did, you would, you know, siphon that gas out. That's a great survival tool. Um, Now, eventually, the gas is going to dissipate to where it's no good, but until it does, if you need to run a generator, if you need to use the car or something, that's what you need to do. And you can't go down to the gas station and get it. Nope. So that's another thing that they did on a movie that was pretty accurate. Not there's one hair sticking out there. Another one. I I I was a fan of this movie, Apollo 13. Um, they couldn't figure out for the life of them, which didn't make sense at the time, but I'm sure that they put it on their list. But um, breathing in carbon dioxide, because whenever you breathe out carbon dioxide, and they had filters to scrub out carbon dioxide and give them clean air. Well, the guys down on the ground got everything together. Besides, let me tell you, the filter that scrubbed us out in one of the ships, it was square, and the other one it was round. Again, big mistake. But they had to basically make a square peg go into a round hole. So they got everything that they had and put it on a table and figured out a way to make that work. And from spare parts to junk, they saved their lives. And this is a true story. You know, with duct tape and a few other things, they saved that crew. And without that, they would have they'd still be up there floating around somewhere. But that goes to show you that what you can do with junk, spare parts, and knowledge. That's the thing. Our next one is um, a film I watched not too long ago, Cowboys and Aliens. The preacher splashes whiskey over a wound before stitching it up. Same thing in Braveheart. Um, They douse the poker with alcohol before um, doing so. And alcohol, good alcohol will kill bacteria. And it also breaks down the cell membranes, which, you know, uh, hospitals use alcohol to do the exact same thing. But it has to be at least 60 to 90 proof to disinfect um, said wounds. So that is a thing that the movies got right, In a pinch, you need you don't have the supplies to clean the wounds off and you need to seal it up. Dump some alcohol. It's not going to feel good, and I mean alcohol as in that kind of alcohol. Um, so, and I'm not a doctor. This is proof from other doctors. Um, our next one is uh, into uh, into Alaska. I think it's called or backwoods or something like that, backcountry. Um, and this goes good and bad. So note this. This guy goes to Alaska and he wants to live off the land and that stuff. And he ended up getting trapped during the winter time because the water raging and stuff like that. And he lives off the land for a good while. And then he starts to starve because, you know, runs out of meat and stuff. And he's on this little island, so to speak, area, tributary. And he starts foraging and he starts eating roots and berries. And then you know, he starts to get too hungry and he starts eating some things and he finds out it's very poisonous. He looks it up and he panics and they hikers find him later on, so to speak. It's a very good movie, very sad movie, um, but it shows that you could survive off of foraging uh, roots and berries and plants and stuff. But you can also not survive if you eat the wrong thing. And that's where the knowledge of plants is paramount to anything else because that one berry that you eat could be your last one. Um, sorry about that. Okay, let's move on. Um, Navigation. There are many, many, many ways of um, navigating. Special Forces does a special course in navigation. I'm not going to go into all the details and everything, but uh, reading the stars, everybody knows what the Big Dipper looks like. It looks like you know, a dipper, big spoon thing, and it points to the North Star. So, hence, that's where the North Star is. That means it's going north. There's many movies that point this out, but there's other things that um, point to what directions things are. Moss on the side of a tree. If you look at certain trees, um, you can determine where, like, if you see a tree going up and there's a big branch on one side, that means it goes to a certain direction. I'm not going to I'm not teaching anybody thing here, but well, kind of, but um, it's good to learn these things, ways to find a direction when you have no compass. For that matter, how to navigate when you do have a compass. These are things that you need to learn. And some movies get it right. They actually do get it right. Um, I've seen people uh, make compasses. I've seen people travel, get a bearing at night because they know where north is and stuff like that. There's always where the sun comes up and where it goes down type situation. So many ways to learn that. Um, the next one is um, I know it's fiction and everything, but uh, The Martian, uh, where he got left behind, so to speak, and they didn't have enough. He didn't have enough food for them to make a trip to come get him. So he had to get creative and grow his own food. I'm not going to go in detail what he used for fertilizer or anything like that, but um, he got potatoes to grow, and he ate a lot of potatoes before they come and got him. And it goes to show you that you can grow your own food in dead dirt. You know, dirt that comes out of the forest or whatever, even the desert. You would not think of something you could grow out in the desert, but if you give it enough love, um, you can get things to grow out of it. I've seen it done before. I've got friends that live in the desert that turn that sandy dirt into crops. Um, so if you have a stockpile of food, that's you start eating, that's going to go away. You need to have something that replenishes that, and that proves it. That movie was pretty much dead on. Um, our next uh, thing comes, and you guys probably won't like this one, but eating insects when your hunting party does not provide food. So you gotta go, you know, and even a cartoon like The Lion King when they were munching on grubs and things like that. It was for laughs and everything, but there's other movies that they ate things like that. Yeah. Um, but sitting there and think about it. There's a movie I can't remember, Snowpiercer, uh, turned the same idea into protein bars, and that's what they fed uh, their passengers, so to speak. Um, Crickets, grasshoppers, larvae, all that yummy stuff. It can be done. Not saying anybody wants to do it, but in a pinch, that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? Um, that's that's pretty much the gist of it. Now, why is it worth to pay attention to these movies? For the most part, if you follow the stuff that are in the movies, most of the time your survival will not last very long, and that's just being honest. But sometimes they do get things right, and the part of this is if you see something that looks interesting, do research on it, make sure it actually is accurate. And 90% of the time, it's a movie, you know? So it's always good to do your own research. How many times I've said it, um, and it's very simple to do now. Especially you have the internet. Uh, there's 10 million experts on YouTube. Um, I wish I could call myself an expert, but I'm far from it. I would never want to be called an expert in any field because I always want to continue to learn. Experts don't need to learn, they know everything. And I think that's their downfall. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Catch you in the next one. God bless.